And we are live in a palace. Oh my goodness. Where's Adam?
Your Majesty, yes.
Introducing!
Oh, hi there. I didn't see you there. I'm just here in Buckingham Palace. What's that? I'll take the corgis for a walk later. No worries, Madge. All good. Such a lovely queen. Love you, Liz. Hi.
Am I interrupting
Oh, I was just having lunch with the Queen. You know, it's 1 o'clock in Australia, which means it's, midnight here. Just hanging out with the Queen as you do during lockdown. How do you do? How do you do? Tea and crumpets, all that jazz. All well and good. How are you?
How am I? I'm wonderful. I haven't spent time with the Queen. I am a queen myself, but haven't had the opportunity.
Maybe one day.
Maybe
One day you'll be lucky to join us here.
I would like to introduce everyone to Pride in the Living Room, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, so to everybody watching, this is Pride in the Living Room, Jewmos edition. And a quick reminder, Pride in the Living Room was founded by Agudah, an Israeli LGBT task force, in the aftermath of some events in Israel, the 2009 Tel Aviv Gay Center shooting and the 2015 Jerusalem Pride Parade stabbing. And the project arose from the need to share stories of LGBT Jews from around the world to encourage empathy and community. And it is my pleasure to introduce the perfect, nice Jewish boy for your son, for your grandson, for your...
Pretty much.
So this is basically an audition tape for people all around the world.
How do I look? Is my hair okay? Is my ISO beard okay?
You look perfect. Good. So I would like to welcome Adam to the stage. Adam.
Hello. Wow, this is cool. What a great initiative. I would give you a tour of the palace, but we're not allowed to change rooms apparently. You need to be escorted by a foot soldier. It's very cool.
So Adam, talk to me. So give us a little introduction into who you are.
Who am I? Well, I was born in 1985 to Jewish parents here in Melbourne, Australia. I do many things, I think. What would best describe me as? I'm probably the friend that your mum likes better. I'm a nice Jewish boy. And I have met your parents. They probably love me, just saying. I guess, what am I? I'm a radio presenter by early morning. I'm a news writer and reader by night. During the day, I work with many charities as a marketing and philanthropist specialist as well. Working for a company called My Cause here in Melbourne, which we work with a lot of charities, a lot of Jewish charities as well here in Melbourne to help them with their annual campaigns and appeals. So I guess I'm a philanthropic, talkative, crazy person would be summing up my life in a nutshell.
That's a perfect way to describe you. And bubbly and effervescent and, all the other positive.
All the others.
And
I normally look a lot better. I set myself a challenge because facial hair in our family doesn't really grow that much. Like I could never become a rabbi because this is as long as it's get. And I haven't shaved in about 4 weeks. So I'm trying the lockdown version 2 challenge of not shaving for 6 weeks to see if I can actually grow a beard. But at the moment, it looks like someone's just gotten a black texture and drawn all over my face. I just can't grow facial hair, except for this. That's it.
Well, after lockdown, who knows? It might be a few centimeters longer. You can start to apply for Santa Claus positions all around Melbourne.
Oh, I totally could. I'm starting to get, you can't see, but now, I'm 35 in a couple of months and I already started to get white hairs here and there.
Ooh.
So I think I'm about 5 more years away from being an actual Santa Claus, being a white Jewish fox, as we'd call it in the community.
I'm sure there's some subsection of the internet devoted to that.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure we can find it. There's nothing that shocks me. I remember when I first started off in radio in Australia, I was working with a radio station called Joy 94.9, which is the only LGBT radio station in Australia. And we got invited to this event, which was a fundraiser for the station and also for Victorian AIDS Council, which is now known as Thorn Harbour Health. And, you know, they had things like you could buy food, you could buy, let's say, toys. You could buy clothing. And then I was there with my content director, who was a straight woman, but she has gay parents, and that's how she fit into the fold. And we're just standing there watching, and then all of a sudden they brought out this guy in a gimp mask, attached electrodes to his nipples, and started whipping him and things like that. And we both went, a bit too much. I think it's time to go. Let's go get some dinner or some wine or something. So yeah, that was the introduction to the LGBT community. And I think that was 7 years ago. And since then, there's nothing that shocks me anymore in the community. When someone says, oh, this happened, I'm like, okay, that's probably true. It probably did happen. What's that? You lost an arm in the process? I'd believe it.
I mean, a gimp mask is the first introduction. That's
Gimp mask and nipple tasering. Yep. That's when you knew that you were, you know, part of the LGBT community.
Is that what the LGBT community means to you, or does it mean something else to you?
Yes, it means gimp masks and electrocution. Absolutely, that's all I think. No, look, the LGBT community in Melbourne is, you know, it's very diverse. There's bars that people go to depending on the type of, let's say, gay that you are. If you're a younger, you know, as what they call a twink, you know, you go to one place. If you're a daddy or into leather, or you're a bigger person and you're more of a bear, or you identify as a bear, you'd go to, say, the Laird in Collingwood. If you're mature and you just want a fun night out and having a real bar atmosphere, you'd go to DT's or Circuit, you know, places like that. It's very weird, because I lived for a few years in DC in the US, in the capital in Washington. And the LGBT community there is very different to, let's say, the LGBT community here. I also lived in Paris, and the LGBT community was more, you know, you had two groups really. It was either you went clubbing, or you were a sophisticated gay that drank wine along the river, or you went to museums and things like that. Like, I think every country has their own, but Melbourne has a very unique and diverse offering, I think, when it comes to LGBT people. Even DT's, for example, the bar in Richmond, which is obviously is currently closed because we're in lockdown, but that's where you'd find a lot of transgender people attend, because they feel very safe there and very at home. And the owner of it, up until he unfortunately died last year, was, you know, very accommodating, loved by everyone in the community, and everyone felt safe. You know, when you went to DT's for a drink or for trivia or for a meal or something, everyone felt safe, and it was very welcoming.
That's really wonderful to hear. I think there's a lot of queer people, you know, a lot of Jewish queer people who might not identify such warm, welcoming spaces in the queer community. So it's really exciting to hear that story from you. So do you?
I remember also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I remember when I first started working in radio, one of the sponsors of the group was a Muslim group, and they have a party every year called Hallam, and so we were invited, and it was not just Muslims, but people from say an Arabic background, or people that identified as Muslims, or from the Islam faith, from different subsections, and that was really interesting to see as well. But I don't know if we've ever had a Melbourne Jewish like nightclub or party or something. I don't know. Maybe we're more reserved, because if our photos appear on the internet, then we're going to have all the boobies at shul pinching our cheeks, saying, "Ah, you're that way inclined. I know a boy. I have a grandson. I think he's gay. I'll introduce you to him."
Well, I do know in the States uh, there is the group Hebrews run by
Mm,
Jason Littman, and he is very well known for reserving nightclubs and bars and having whole Jewish events. And um, I don't
yeah.
know, it'd be fun to bring that back to Melbourne.
Well, eventually, I mean, we can't at the moment. The most fun we get at the moment is having a Jewmos Facebook group, where
Yes.
we occasionally chat from time to time. I think everyone's kind of, I mean, lockdown is obviously hard for a lot of
Mm.
people, especially when you're, you may be gay or single and living on your own. You're feeling disconnected away from your other Jewish gay friends who you'd often go to brunch with. I know that we've tried to organise brunches and things like that with members of our community. But it's obviously when you're single and gay and Jewish, you can't go to shul, you can't see your family, you can't see your friends who you connect well with. Of course, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, I've interviewed many people over the past 2 weeks or so as part of this project. And I think that you're in a very unique position because we are both from Australia, or we both currently reside in Melbourne, and we have both been involved in Jewmos in the sort of the Jewish gay circle in Melbourne. So
Hmm.
I was just wondering, could you give us some thoughts on the state of the Melbourne Jewish gay or LGBT community in Melbourne, and maybe something that, like, let's say you had the magic wand, what's one thing you would do to change things?
What would I do? I guess one thing that I'd really love to see is us getting together more often, even when coronavirus wasn't around. You and I would catch up once in a blue moon, or uh, it's often hard because everyone obviously lives their own lives, and I'd say even more so than people who aren't part of the Jewish faith. Community and family is a huge thing for us as well. So a typical Friday night, you're with family for Shabbat on the week, or on Saturday, you're obviously at the synagogue too, um, and trying to find time for each other is often hard. So one thing I'd love to do, I'd love to wave my wand, and coming out of lockdown in about 4 weeks, is that we actually set aside, okay, this is going to be a weekly or a monthly dinner or a brunch or a breakfast or something that we actually all get together, or we go to the movies, we go to the Jewish Film Festival when it's on in our area, or we go to the Queer Film Festival when it's on. We actively put in plans that we all catch up on a regular basis, because it's nice. I mean, we're all friends, and it's nice to chat to each other, but of course one thing that you miss in lockdown is actually the physically hanging out with someone, actually giving them a hug, sitting on a couch, sharing a laugh, or at a restaurant, sharing a bite to eat. So that would be what I'd do. I'd wave my magic wand and make sure that we all catch up more frequently.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I remember when the very first experience I had as part of the predecessor to Jumos, I think it was still JAG at the time, run by Wayne. Maybe it was in a transition
I
phase.
can't remember.
But we all went to see the Cake Maker as part of the.
Oh yeah.
Were you there? I forget.
No, I wasn't there.
So yeah, so some people went to as part of the Jewish Film Festival. It was either the Jewish Film Festival or the Queer Film Festival, one of the two. Um, and yeah, that moment sort of brought together people. It definitely introduced me to many of the people in the community, and
Yeah.
that sort of led to a group, a private chat. It was originally called Gay 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 Jew Jew Jew. That was too hard to say, so then the name was changed to Jumos. And then,
Hmm.
as things tend to do, it sort of languished for a while. We had one or two Shabbat dinners and a few catch-ups and things here and there, and it sort of fell
Yeah.
into a defunct state. And then
Well, we
this
tried to
year,
have a Shabbat dinner as well until COVID hit.
Yeah, yeah. So
We were
this
supposed
year
to
I've
have dinner.
sorry?
We were supposed to have dinner. You had organized for a few of us to get together for a Shabbat dinner, and then the government went, lockdown, you're not going out. And we just went, right, I guess we
Yeah.
can't.
Just when I tried to reinvigorate Jewmos, the government was like, ah, sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
No
yeah,
go, no soup for you.
no support you. Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. There's so much potential in the Melbourne Jewish LGBT community
Mm.
um, for more connection. Um, I know that there's another group called Here Queer and Jewish, and they've been inspired over the past half a year or so. They did a wonderful queer Hanukkah event last year. They did a beautiful
Ah,
Pesach queer event, and these were really reaching out to people on the fringes, people who would have no connection to Judaism um,
was this
otherwise.
in Melbourne?
Uh, in Melbourne, yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear
It,
about that.
they tended to target more sort of the northern, for people who don't know, there's the Bagel Belt, and then there's sort of the northern Jews who live in city and northern suburbs, and they're
We have
sort of
Jews that live in the north. That's not true. I don't believe you.
it's impossible.
If they don't
um,
live in Caulfield or Elstonwick or around the area, they don't exist at all.
I'm bringing too much of myself into this. I apologize. I want to bring it back to you. Um,
Sure.
just into having this conversation reminds me that we recently did an interview, but the other way around for a sort
Yes.
of a Melbourne-based or an Australia-based think tank, like a TED Talk conference type of thing called Limud
Mhm.
Oz. And so it's really nice to be able to flip the switch and return the favor.
Yeah, it's very different because normally, after 7 years in radio, I'm normally interviewing people. It's still very foreign when someone goes, "I want to interview you," and you're like, "That's not how it works." You know, this is weird. What are you trying to do to me? But no, I appreciate this opportunity to chat. Um, I always say that an interview, though, and this is just through experience in radio, an interview is like sitting around a table and having a cup of coffee with a friend. Even on radio, that friend, you're always talking to one person. You're not talking to more than one person. So it's like when you have an interview. In this case, it's like you and I are sitting around a coffee table having a chat, and
And a
obviously
very fancy
we
coffee table.
a very fancy coffee table. Yes, it's 5,000 karat gold. I don't know what that means. Um, it's one of those things where you go into a jewelry store and they go, "It's 18 karat gold," and you're like, "Okay." The same way someone goes, "I'm expecting a baby," and you're like, "What else were you expecting?" Like, I don't know what to say in this point. Um, so yeah,
So,
it's
so
like you're
take
having.
us, so take us on the journey back to the beginning. Do you remember the
I
first?
don't have my Torah on me.
Do you have the videotape of you being born? Is what I'm asking.
Oh, good question. I don't know. I think Mum might have in the attic somewhere
We
on an
could
old
recreate it.
on an old tape.
Put your legs in the air.
Yeah.
God, this is horrible. I want a
Push it
refund.
back in. Push it back in. I don't want it.
So do
No.
you remember the first moments when your gay identity started to factor into your life, whether you had the vocabulary at
Oh.
the time or not?
Um. Yes, I do because I came out of the closet very later in life, or in my journey, I should say. So up until the age of 23, 24, I was still dating women. Um, I guess when I was younger and I was playing soccer and I was going to the gym a lot at the moment, don't judge me. I've put on about 5 kilos this year just from isolation, just because my cheeks are a lot bigger than what they're used to.
The camera adds 5 pounds. It's fine.
Yeah, in my case, it's at 100 pounds. Um, I yeah, no, I dated women, and I was a soccer player at school, and I'd go to the gym, I'd go for walks, I'd go running, and I'd always look at like a male physique, either at the gym or with their shirt off, and go, that's a good looking body. That's something that I would like to aspire to. It was, for me, it never clicked in my head that I was sexually attracted to the same sex, until I was actually living in Europe. I was 23 at the time, and I met a guy there, and we were just friends. He was bisexual. I identified as straight, and he was a genuinely nice guy, and we started just really randomly dating. Well, going out for dinner and all that, but things slowly progressed and ended up in his bedroom. And to me, I was like, this is strange. And yeah, kind of evolved from there to the point where I was going, am I bisexual? Maybe I am, to, okay, I think I prefer just one gender now, if that makes sense, or one sex now.
And
It was, yeah, it happened for me a lot later. I wasn't, I didn't come out of my mum's womb going, hello. And I still don't do that to this day, except for just then. In fact, one of my flatmates a few years ago was a police officer, and he got some really exciting news one day, and I went, winning, good news. And he goes, no, that's not right. I go, what do you mean? He goes, aren't you supposed to go, winning? And I thought, as a police officer, that was the gayest thing I'd ever seen. Gayest thing I've ever seen a police officer do. Which I still give him shit to this day if I ever bump into him.
and then so that experience and that part of your journey led you to entering into the queer community, as it were.
Yeah, my first introduction to the LGBT community was at radio here in Melbourne, working at a gay and lesbian radio station. Everyone wanted to give you a hug. Everyone wanted to, to be welcoming, and to love you. And it was still a really weird experience, because it was something that I'd never experienced, or I guess had it influenced on me. To me, I was growing up, I was a soccer player. I went to school. I go to the football most weekends whenever I can. I don't consider myself to fit into a mold of being a stereotypical gay person. Don't shoot me, but I don't like Kylie Minogue. I don't like, I like maybe 2 songs from Lady Gaga. I'm not the stereotypical gay person. I don't fart and glitter comes out. So it was a very weird experience coming out, as I did. Everyone at the radio station was gay or lesbian or bisexual or a straight ally or transgender or I don't know what, other, I can't even think, intersex as well. And it was really confronting and weird, but in a good way. Not in a like running for the hills. It was like opening up your eyes to a community, and to, I guess, what I'd been missing out on all those years of not knowing anyone or anything about the community.
Did you seek out that position because you wanted to explore that part of yourself, or was it just the role that happened to come your way at the time?
No, I didn't. I actually called a radio station, Triple R, here in Melbourne. I'd just come back from the US, and I'd always wanted to be in radio. Ever since I was a kid, in high school, I'd always do like video editing and voiceovers and things like that, because I really loved it, and I always thought one day I wanted to try it. And when I got back, I called a radio station called Triple R, which is based in Brunswick here in Melbourne. They do music. They're a music station. They've got an online course, not an online course, an in-person radio course. And they said, look, our position is full. What about Joy? They're an LGBT radio station, but they've got a really good radio course. So I applied at Joy to do a radio course. And it's not like a Jewish school where they say, what's your religion? What's your sex? No, I'm sorry, you can't join. Everyone was really welcoming.
That's
And
amazing.
so that's how I got involved. I got involved inadvertently. I went there to do a radio course. Ended up having a breakfast show for 2 years. Produced an award-winning sports show. Did news and current affairs for them as well. And that was 3 years of my life.
It's an incredible story.
Yeah, it's all right. Be better if
Um,
I came out with a husband and lived in a mansion and drove a Ferrari. But hey, Buckingham Palace will have to do.
oh, the sacrifices we have to make.
I know.
So you've spoken a little bit about gay stereotypes,
Hmm.
and this is always a conversation topic that I'm really fascinated by. Um, you've spoken about tribes and about uh, fetishes and the mannerisms that and the cultural identifiers that might be associated with the gay community. Can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about, I guess, your relationship with traditional gay stereotypes and how you see yourself fitting into that world?
Um, I've often struggled with that because I don't know if where I identify in the LGBT community. I don't know if I have an identifier. Do I count myself as a younger person, as a twink who goes out and parties, and you do see a lot of, like, whether you're watching Instagram or TikTok, you see a lot of the younger LGBT generation that are very much out there, that will wear, everything rainbow, and they're all proud, which I'm proud as well. Don't get me wrong, but I don't fit into, let's say, a more flamboyant, you know, glitter goes everywhere person. I also don't, I don't fit into like a leather community. I don't consider myself a bear, even though I'm, I put on weight and I've got facial hair. Um, yeah, it was it's been a really strange journey. In the end, I've just come to say that, what, I don't belong in any community, and I'm quite content with that. I'm quite content with just being, uh, you know, uh, uh, just being me, who just happens to be gay. And I think also, for me, it's never been. I don't walk into a boardroom, or I don't jump on air and go, good morning, it's Adam Samuel, I'm gay. I don't do that when I go into a boardroom for work. I'm always, Adam Samuel, radio presenter or something. Who I sleep with has
Adam
always been
Samuel,
to me.
award-winning radio presenter.
um, Being gay has just been, is to me, has always been about who I slept with. It hasn't been who defines me. Whereas, for a lot of people in our community, being gay is what defines them. I guess I guess because I didn't grow up in being gay, and I didn't grow up with being bullied, or like a lot of members of our community have. That's never really hit me, like, as part of my identity. um, and being a private person, obviously doesn't really help when you're on radio, because you have to talk about stuff. um, but being gay has always been about who I've who I've slept with, or who my partner is. It doesn't define who I am. And I don't know whether that's just because I've built up a lot of resilience over the years from, being bullied about other things, such as being, growing up as a fat kid, or being Jewish, or, they used to go, oh, you've got the Jewish nose. You're a Jewish nose freak, things like that. Um, yeah, being gay isn't isn't who I am. It's part of me, but it's not who I am. It's just a part of me of who I preference, that I would like to sleep with, or that I'd like to marry. And that's to me, nothing against anyone who is, more out there, or who wears rainbow everything, or who throws glitter in the air, or who attends Pride or Mardi Gras religiously every year, or goes to gay clubs every year, every weekend. Nothing against that. I love, I've got friends that do that, and I love them dearly, and I am loyal, and I will fight to the end of the earth to protect them if they ever got bullied or harassed because of who they are. It's just not who I am.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that.
No
Um,
worries.
I think there's people in the world who will identify with your perspective. Um, so you mentioned that you weren't bullied in school for being gay, but you think that other aspects of your identity um, may have brought you attention in school. One of them being Jewish, one of them being
Mm,
your Judaism.
yeah.
We've spoken a little bit about your gay story. Can you take us all the way back to the beginning and tell us a bit about your Jewish story?
My Jewish story. Well, born here in Melbourne to Jewish parents. My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. She was in Theresienstadt in Czechoslovakia for years. She was from Vienna. Both my mum's parents were from Vienna. My grandmother was in a concentration camp. My grandfather wasn't. My grandmother had two brothers, two sisters, and her mum. Her two sisters and her mum and her were in the concentration camp, and her two brothers managed to avoid being captured in Vienna, and they joined part of an underground resistance to once they found out where my grandmother or where their sisters and their mother were being held, they formed an underground resistance to go and free them. Unfortunately, they were killed on the Hungarian border on their way to Czechoslovakia, which, you know, excuse me, I couldn't imagine what that was like for them. But, you know, grateful that my grandparents, that my grandmother survived. Got married in Vienna in the 50s. My uncle was born in Vienna. They moved out here just after he was born, and my mum was born in 1960 here in Australia. Yeah, I started going to King David here in Melbourne, Jewish school here in Melbourne. Mum remarried and we moved to Sydney, and I didn't go to a Jewish school in Sydney because we were living out west, and there was only one Jewish school in Sydney, which was Moriah College, which was too expensive and far too far away. Would have taken me at least half a day to get there, I reckon. Traffic moves slowly in Sydney. But yeah, always identified being Jewish. We'd come down to Melbourne every school holidays to visit mum's brother, my uncle, my cousins, my aunt, family down here, light the candles every Friday. And, you know, unfortunately, we didn't go to shul in Sydney. And I don't know if I'm the best Jewish person to say that, you know, don't really go to shul here in Melbourne. But, you know, still identify as Jewish, whether I'm at a synagogue or not. I think, you know, a lot of people feel that way too. When it comes to religion, religion is very personal. It doesn't mean you have to be physically in a place to be religious. You know, I've got 10% off downstairs, so I think that's proof enough. But yeah, no, it's been, I mean, you know, celebrate all the holidays with mum's family and with dad's family. Have a big family. This is how twisted my family tree is, right? I'll show you. So my mum and dad divorced just before I was born. My mum's brother has a wife, obviously. My dad's has a twin sister whose husband is brother to my mum's brother's wife. So it's like a
Wait,
big
what?
circle. Yeah, it's like a big circle. Totally non-incestuous though, which I find really, really funny. Completely legal.
I'll need to
But
replay
yes, come
this
from a
video
big,
and throw everything out.
you will. Big Jewish family. Whenever there's like first or second nights, there's always like 30 people first night, 40 people second night. So on, so on. People come and go. People eat at different times. People just stay for dessert, all the rest. Look, we can't afford you at first seating. You're welcome to come after 9 o'clock just for dessert. Sort of thing.
And at the very beginning of our time together, you mentioned that you're involved in marketing and philanthropy for Jewish organizations. So
Yeah, so I work for a company when I'm not on radio called My Cause. We're a fundraising platform, and a lot of Jewish charities use us for their, you know, simple things like just for people that wanting to donate. but we also do like big campaigns as well. We've actually got one coming up next week with CSG, which is the community security group that provide all the security guards for Jewish synagogues and schools here in Melbourne.
That's really amazing. So
We've also run campaigns for Shari Zedek, which is a hospital in Jerusalem. Also run for Hadassah, which is another hospital in Israel as well. In fact, the campaign that we did last year for Shari Zedek was to get a genetic sequencer in the hospital to help with research detection and looking into the BRCA gene, which affects a lot of Jewish women when it comes to breast cancer. So that was really cool to be part of that campaign to help the Australian fundraising group raise money for the Jewish hospital so they can continue their research. Unfortunately, one of my close friends here in Melbourne, who I love dearly, she's actually just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and it turned out that she had the BRCA gene. So, hoping that the work that they're doing in Israel on this gene, looking into it and working out why it occurs, why it forms into breast cancer, why Jewish women are more prevalent to breast cancer because of the gene. Hopefully in years to come, my sister, my daughters, if I don't know if I'm carrying the gene or not, or down the track if whoever fathers or whoever mothers my baby, my child in the future, I should say. It's obviously something that I hope is looked into quite microscopically and worked out why Jewish women are more prevalent to breast cancer because of this gene.
it's incredible to hear you speak with such passion about really important issues. And
well, I have to. I'm here in Buckingham Palace. One must always be civil and talk about issues, even with my
coffee cup.
With my coffee cup.
I remember when we were putting together our profiles for the Limud conference, you sent me yours, and one of the lines was, "You'll see me walking down Glen Ira Road with my little cup of coffee every morning," something like that.
Oh yeah, I've always got a cup of coffee in my hand. It's actually really cold at the moment, but I don't mind cold coffee. I just hate waste. So I think there's about like yay much left in it. And it's brought to you by the great Jewish restaurant called McDonald's.
I was going to say something. When you first buy coffee and it's too hot and you burn your tongue and you have to wait that period, so you're desperate for coffee, you buy the coffee, and you have to wait half an hour to actually drink the coffee. Oh, it's the worst. Oh.
And then if you wait too long, it gets really, really cold.
Yeah. Oh. No, I'm having coffee flashbacks.
Do you need a moment? Are you okay?
I'm okay. Good to go. So you said that you're looking forward to someone fathering or mothering your future kid, which makes me want to ask, when we're thinking about a family and being a parent and having children, I wanted to ask what your thoughts are on that, and particularly in the melding of your Jewish and your gay identities.
I don't know if I have any profound thoughts on that. I think it's pretty straightforward, hopefully finding the husband and having a family with. Family's always been big for me. I'd love to have kids of my own. And being Jewish, yeah, definitely. My kids will be brought up Jewish. I don't think there's a question about it. There is so much that I love about the Jewish faith. Whether it be traditions like family gatherings or being proud. I remember seeing my brother being bar mitzvahed, a few years ago, and the feeling of pride of being your brother and seeing your brother up there on the bima reading and being celebrated is one thing I definitely want for my kids. And I'd want them to be brought up Jewish, but then give them the opportunity to explore it and to work out exactly what they want from religion. I think religion is a very personal thing, and you can't force it on. It's not. I don't think religion can be forced on, but I think it's important to build a stable base for your children. Especially if you're raising them in Judaism, but giving them enough slack on the rope that they can make their own decisions and they can explore their Judaism and their view on religion as they like. Don't think you can force someone to conform to one religion. Interestingly, though, I was having a discussion the other day with another friend who said that religion is, everyone picks and chooses from religion. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they go, there's people that believe in inner peace and well-being, and which is along the lines of, say, Buddhism, Hinduism, or even Kabbalah, as an example. People who still believe in traditional views, which is your more conservative, say, Judaism, or if you're a practicing Christian or Roman Catholic or something, who actively goes to church, or you're a practicing Jew who goes to the synagogue. I found that really interesting that religion has become, I think, more with our generation, more with millennials to younger kids, that people aren't people don't go, oh, I'm a conservative person. I think everyone picks and chooses parts of religion that they like. Yeah, I'd want my kids to. Ideally, of course, I'd love my kids to be brought up Jewish and to experience, things like bar mitzvahs and all the simchas and all the blessings. But I think it's also important for them to carve their own path as well.
That's a really beautiful answer. I was interested. So when I asked you to speak about your Jewish story, your mind automatically went back to the Holocaust and how that informed your family history and I'm sure it had some effect on your life. I remember being in school, and I forget where this idea came from, but it was the idea of so many Jews died in the Holocaust, and they died just so you may have a chance to live and to continue the Jewish faith and tradition and culture.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you've experienced anything like that, and if you had any thoughts on marrying the Holocaust narrative with being gay.
God, I would have been dead for sure back in, could you imagine being in the 30s, being gay and Jewish? Wouldn't have even had a chance. It's frightening to think about. I don't know if it relates to each or all. I've never been persecuted for being Jewish like my grandmother has. I've never been persecuted for being gay like a lot of older members in the LGBT community have, all the way back to the 1970s. No, earlier. When was Stonewall? 40 years ago, 1980, 1979, something like that. Was it 1979, wasn't it?
I think it's
yeah. I should look. You can edit this out. I'm going to have a look. Talk amongst yourselves.
I was going to say, I do like how you have these massive mezuzahs in the background. So if you get stuck, you can go.
Sorry. No, yeah, 1969. So what's that? 50 years? No. 30.
51?
Yeah, 50 years last year. 51 years this year. So I never experienced persecution for being gay like my grandmother did. Never experienced persecution for being. Did I just say gay like my grandmother did? I think I got that wrong. I never experienced persecution for being Jewish like my grandmother did. Never experienced being persecuted for being gay like older members of the LGBT community around the Stonewall era have. you know, I think you and I are very blessed that we are, you know, 20 to 30-year olds living in this time when, you know, things like same-sex marriage is passing, and, you know, you can actually walk down the street holding your partner's hand without the fear of being bashed, or beaten or bruised. You know, I don't know if I can. I can't really. I guess I can't really marry it because I haven't experienced any of that. I mean, there would be people who may put the two together, but for me, I don't think I can.
Hmm. Um, so you mentioned the Australian Same-Sex Marriage Act being passed a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
Do you remember? So as you know, we had the postal vote. Um,
That was a
that
lot of fun. I think, were we living together at the time?
like in the same house, or
Yeah.
uh,
Well, we haven't done anything else yet. I'm still waiting for you to ask me out. So,
if memory serves, I was still in Perth, so it would have been a very, very long house to accommodate the nullarbor in the middle.
wow. Yeah. I'll see you next week. I'm just coming down.
Uh, um, and yeah, do you have any memories of that time, and did your relationship with your gayness change throughout that period?
Um, no, I mean, well, a little bit. I think I became more passionate because it was something that was that was affecting me that I could relate to. You know, it's often hard when something happens in the media to relate to it. You know, you see people protesting about one thing, and you go, look, I can't. You know, I support, but I can't really relate to it because it hasn't affected me. But I think this one hit obviously a lot closer to home because the government said, well, we're going to give everyone the choice to you know to decide whether or not I get to be married. And I think, you know, it obviously brought out something in me where I was very passionate about the cause, and you know, because I am gay. Um, and I think my relationship with being gay grew stronger. It also helped me to get rid of a lot of people in my life who didn't share my view. And you know what, lockdown also is a good thing too, because while I see, you know, people that I'm acquaintances with on social media saying, oh, I'm sick of lockdown, I went for a 3-hour walk today. I'm like, well, I'll just unfriend you because I don't want you anywhere near me because you don't believe in what I believe. And I think the same-sex marriage postal vote did that too. A lot of people saying, look, I'm voting no because I believe it's, you know, this and that. And I go, well, thank you for telling me how I should live my life. I don't need you in my life. And I think it was really stupid that they actually went to a postal vote because I don't think anyone has the right to tell anyone else how to live their life. Just like, you know, men shouldn't dictate in the US how women who have unplanned pregnancies should treat their bodies. You know, oh, you can't abort because it's this and that. It's like, well, no one gives you the right to dictate who or how you should treat your body. No one has the right to dictate who I should love or marry.
I know that Jewish spaces and gay LGBT queer spaces can often become political, and they can often
Mm,
have activist arms to them. Like I remember being younger and being in a youth movement, B'nai Akiva, and there was a sort of uh, political activisty bent to it. And I also
mm,
know that um, there are many queer spaces that do have that similar sort of vibe to them. And I was just
yep.
wondering, in your own experience, you spoke a little bit about this through the postal vote, plebiscite postal vote.
Mm.
Have you found yourself exploring your Jewish or your gay identities elsewhere in political activisty contexts?
Oh, I thought you were going to go with have I explored my gayness through porn? Um,
You can answer that if you wish.
no, no, I haven't today. Um, have I? Well, kind of, yes. Um, I one of my friends who I unfortunately haven't seen in such a long time. His name is Neil Farrow, and I remember having lunch with him a few years ago. I even took him to a Lady Gaga concert too. He was the candidate for Paran here in the state election in Victoria, and he was set to be the first openly gay state MP. I know Tim Wilson, member for Goldstein in federal parliament as well. I've met Penny Wong a couple of times, although I'm not a huge fan of Penny Wong. Sorry, don't hate me. I don't mind saying that, for many years she was, even though she is openly gay, she, towed the party line and said, same-sex marriages between a man and a woman. And then when Labor got out of power and Liberals came in, all of a sudden things changed and she was championing the cause. And then everyone said that she was a savior and a hero. And I was just like, okay, savior, just because you change your mind doesn't make you a savior and a hero. If you believe in something, you should fight for something. And I think that took away from a lot of people who have actively been fighting for same-sex marriage for, decades. That's just my view. I don't, love me or hate me, I don't care. I'm resilient. If you hate me, don't care. There's a lot of people that hate me, including my reflection. But I always say that I really supported Neil's campaign because of being, well, not just being gay, but also what he was passionate about. Just like we in Victoria, we have a Minister for Equality, Martin Foley, who's a big supporter of the LGBT community, who goes to like the opening of the queer film festivals and marches down Fitzroy Street in St Kilda during Pride Parade. So always got room in my heart for people who are genuinely or politicians who are genuinely fighting the good cause. Same as like Josh Burns, member for Macnamara and Labor. He supports LGBT rights too, and he won the election last year as a Labor member. It's not about Labor or Liberal for me. I'll vote for the person in my area who I think would be best for the job. But and Josh was one of them. So I think we've got some good role models that are in politics that are trying to fight the good fight. It's a shame that we had to go to a postal vote and let Australia dictate to us, or openly criticize us for who we'd like to marry. But thank God we passed with flying colours. I mean, 62%, you couldn't go wrong. That was a landslide.
I think we all have, well, I think any Australian queer person could tell you that they have fond memories. Well, not fond, they have very clear memories of that time.
I was sitting at my desk at work when the results was happening. And my boss goes, "Congratulations." And I went, "Well, thank you. I'm not getting married." Just means that I can. It doesn't mean I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Although it was bad for the Jews, it was bad for us because the one good thing that we didn't have was our parents going, "When are you getting married? When are you settling down?" Because we couldn't. And now that we can, Mum's like, "So when you're getting married?" You're like, "Oh, great, thanks. Now you've approved it, so now we have to, now the nagging's back on."
It's so true.
Just want you to find a nice husband, find a nice Jewish boy, settle down. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, time is ticking. When you're marrying a nice Jewish husband.
Oh, look at the time. I've got to go. Sorry, Mum. Bye.
It's so true. I have maybe one, possibly two more questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
So you mentioned that on the radio, someone gave you a profound thought on how to approach religion, where for some people it's more about the underlying feelings and values that they bring to the religion, and for other people it's more about the strict
Yes.
Before I ask my actual question, did you have any further thoughts on that, or?
No, like I said, for me, religion's always been something very personal and very private. when someone wants to discuss religion with me, I don't really talk about my views. If they ask me, which I've had a lot of friends have said to me, so what does this mean in Judaism? And I'd be more than happy to, to explain it to them. And one thing I love about Judaism is that we don't preach our religion, but if people ask questions, we're more than happy to answer them. We're not like other religions where you have to knock on the door and say, hello, have you found Jesus? And you just want to turn up and go, oh, I think I saw him yesterday. He's not here at the moment. Do you want to leave a message? Religion's always been really private to me, and I don't let people dictate, how I should live by religion, or how religious I should be. Like, if I want to go to the synagogue, I'll go to the synagogue. If I don't want to go, then I don't want to go. I just don't think that you need to actively be somewhere to be religious.
Mm.
That's my one thought on it.
So flipping the switch on that a little bit, I was wondering if you've had any conversations, or has someone over the radio during your career said something that changed the way you thought about your gay identity?
For some reason, I just got a flashback to my co-host, who was a lovely lesbian from Sri Lanka when I first started radio. She wanted me to get involved in lesbian speed dating, and I remember meeting the first person and saying, hi, I'm Adam. I'm the co-host of this event, and she goes, "You're butch." Don't know why that came into my head. Or when you said, has anyone shaped? I went, yes, I'm a butch lesbian. I'll forever be a butch lesbian. No, I don't know if anyone on radio has ever, or any of my guests has ever made me feel. I mean, we have interviewed some really cool LGBT icons. We interviewed Martina Navratilova the day after she got proposed to at the Australian Open in 2014 by her partner.
Wow.
Her partner, which for them was, I guess, she did say at the time it was a little bit of a political statement as well, but they actually wanted to get married, and her partner proposed to her. And we know how accepting Australian tennis legends like Margaret Court are about LGBT people, don't we? We've seen plenty of her in the news. We've interviewed, LGBT writers and journalists from the UK, from the US, LGBT artists. I produced a month of radio with Anthony Collier and Tim Campbell, who are, openly gay actors and singers in Australia. Don't know if they've shaped me, but I guess one thing, they've given me a lot more empathy for what they've gone through to get where they are. And I acknowledge that for LGBT people, especially in media, whether it be journalism, acting, singing, writing, art, as well, for us it's a lot harder, because we don't fit the norm. And you see that in movies. You see straight people playing gay characters, or you see able-bodied people playing disabled characters, or people with a disability. You see straight white men play transgender characters on TV, and it's like, well, why would you not hire a lesbian to play a lesbian role, or a gay person to play a gay person role? And one thing I experienced when I tried to first break it into commercial radio was that everyone that was getting ahead of me was female, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but the person who was choosing the people in front of me happened to be a guy who was a bit of a misogynist, who just liked seeing blonde-haired women around the station, and that really turned me off. And I know people who are from the LGBT community that have worked their asses off to get into commercial radio, and I look at them and to see where they are and how hard it's been for them to get there, and it just it really builds my empathy, and also builds my appreciation for what they've been through, and the same challenges that we're all facing.
It's really incredible for me to hear your perspective. So thank you, Adam, for sharing.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. I've got to go run off and join the Queen for afternoon tea later, but this has been fun.
We're about to reach the end of our time together, but do you have any final words of wisdom to impart? Or
Never hold your nose and sneeze with your mouth full. It's painful.
that's such good advice.
It's really good advice. I've done it a few times. It actually is really painful. Excuse me. Look, I don't take things too seriously. I do take the work that I do seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. And I think that's one of the sad things that we've learned from being locked down, and things like the marriage equality vote, and also social media. Social media gives a voice to people who can hide behind a fake profile and a keyboard and just spout the most hateful and disgusting things. And I'm not just talking about my tweets against Donald Trump, because I think that's warranted at the end of the day. I think people lack a lot of empathy and resilience these days. And also, people have forgotten how to say sorry and how to accept an apology. So I guess my word of, I guess if I could tell people online who are struggling right now, or maybe taking things to heart too much, is that I guess, be kind, be nicer. The world is in a state right now where we need all the love and kindness that we can.
Your words are really profound, whether you think they are or not. And in your own words, you're just you who happens to be gay. And I think that's
Just me.
just you. And I think often, like you say, some people play identity politics, and that works very well for them. But for you, not much, and that's okay. And in your incredible work, you've been able to reach out to queer communities and Jewish communities, allowing them to tell their stories. So your wish is for the world to have more empathy and compassion for each other and for themselves. And your life's work is dedicated to that. And that's incredible to see.
And also for people to become a bit more resilient. Like, not everything has to be personal, or to tick you off, or you need to go on a rant on social media about it. Like, there are more important things to worry about. If your biggest concern is jumping on social media and ranting about something that you have no control about, I'd love to switch lives, because I've got 1,000 things to worry about, including my 91-year-old grandmother who's in a nursing home, who we can't visit because of lockdown. So if your biggest concern is what some person said on social media, and you've got to write a Twitter rant about it for pages and argue with everyone, let's swap, because that sounds like you have no worries in the world. Be kind, but build resilience and get over it. Build a bridge, get through it, move on, rub some dirt in it. What else did Dad say? Oh, get over it. Oh, it's going to be okay.
I don't know if my Jewish dad sounded like that, but in another lifetime.
No, I don't think your dad doesn't sound like that. That would be really funny if he said, "Oh, get over it, Jared. Rub some dirt into it." I would laugh my ass off. That would be hilarious if your dad said that to you.
Well, on that note, it is my pleasure spending this time with you, Adam. I know you're
Pleasure's
very
been
busy.
mine. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Here's to sharing our stories in this moment and many more moments in the future.
Yes, and now if you'll excuse me, I have to go for a walk with the corgis. Bye.